think that self-love has no condition. I think that the way that we condition ourselves to love ourselves and to have some type of trust and some type of affection for who we are is sort of too difficult nowadays. And I'm really making this video because sometimes when I mention self-love, a lot of people are like, well, how do you actually do it? Like, what do you actually do? Like, what does it look like? What is this, and the other? Like, more than just the words. So I guess this is sort of like how to love yourself. And I know that's sort of like a crazy video, but I think it is important to the very most. For starters, I think embracing the idea that self-love has no condition is very important. I think that we have to understand that who we are and what we are is human. And we have to give ourselves the freedom and ability to be human and not live in reference to everything around us. I think part of the condition we put on ourselves is thinking that we have to be perfect or we have to be better than someone else or we have to, in some way, be better than what we are. And one thing I think I realized pretty early on was you're always enough for you. Like, I genuinely think you're always enough for you because you have to be. You're here right now and you're alive, you're breathing, and you're sufficient. And sometimes it is just about the perspective that you have on yourself that actually allows you to practice self-love in a real way. I think a lot of us don't feel deserving of our own love because we don't get it from the world around us, because someone has deprived it to us. But I think you have to learn to move forward from that in a real way and begin to love yourself in truth. And I think it's easier done than said in a way. I think self-love is in a lot of our actions that we don't recognize right now. And I think we just don't appreciate them as acts of self-love. And we don't give it to ourselves as acts of self-love. Like everything that you do for yourself. Like if you like to read, you reading is an act of self-love. If you like to play the game, then playing the game is an act of self-love. Doing what you like and doing what makes you feel most like you is an act of self-love. And I think giving yourself a perspective that actually appreciate those times is an act of self-love too. I think that a lot of times we don't think we love ourselves because we don't give ourselves an opportunity to see it, and we think it has to be shown in the world around us rather than the world within. I think giving yourself an opportunity to actually love yourself is one of the most important things that we can ever do. Otherwise, we're just stuck in some type of anxious waiting for something to happen when what has to happen has to be done by you. What has to happen has to be done in a real way and through who you are. And if we never give ourselves that opportunity, and if we never actually take action with it in terms of changing our perspective, then it'll never change. The conditions we place ourselves under are unjust in a real way. And through my like self-care and taking care of myself in a real way, I've seen nothing but a greater opportunity. Like I remember last year when I actually started practicing self-love daily and through affirmations, it was really just about realizing the shift in my perspective. And I think a lot of it came from me actually investing in myself and putting in work for who I am, like through my self-care. And I know I talk about self-care a lot, but like things like my skincare, recognizing that, you know, certain things I harshed on myself about, like having bad skin at the time and not having it where I wanted to, was sort of hindering me. Not because it should, but because of the perspective I had of myself. I think we have to love ourselves regardless. Even if you want to improve a certain aspect of you, you have to practice self-love through it so that action is not demeaning to you, but uplifting. And through my practice of skincare, I think I realized a lot, sort of, in self-care in general. Things take time, and sometimes your love for yourself has to be patient, which is why I'm thankful that Teach Hanley is sponsoring this video. If you guys are unfamiliar with Teach Hanley, is they're an uncomplicated skincare brand for men. And they sent me over a few items I'll showcase for you. I'll start with the AM and PM moisturizers, and then they sent me over a wash as well as a exfoliating scrub. And if you guys are interested in skincare at all, or want to take care of yourself, or want an opportunity to take care of yourself in a real way, I would definitely recommend Teach Hanley. You can click the link in my description, get 40% off your first box plus a free gift worth $20, which can either be a exfoliating brush or a manicure set. And also sign up to get 20% off for life. I've been using their products for about almost a year now, and I appreciate the results. All in all, I think that any type of self-care needs to be affirmed. I think we need to acknowledge the potency of our medicine at times for it to actually take full effect. I think a lot of us do things that are practicing self-love without feeling love for ourselves. And I can't necessarily articulate the feeling of love for yourself, but imagine how you would love anyone else in your life, or imagine how you would love anything in your life, and begin to do that for you. Like looking yourself in the mirror, regardless of all your flaws, regardless of what mistakes, and literally saying to yourself, I love you. I think these are the important things. I think if we can't base our minds in love and don't give ourselves an actual opportunity to take the space that we take up, then we lose our actual ability to change, or at least change for the better, at least change for us, at least do things that actually help who we are. Self-love is one of the most important things, and it is definitely a pillar of my whatever mental philosophy I have. If you can't trust yourself, believe yourself, or believe in yourself and listen to yourself, then you will never produce anything that actually is beneficial to you. You'll never bring into your life that's actually beneficial, because you have to be able to listen to yourself, and you have to be able to love to learn to love what you're listening to. Not in the sense of saying everything's perfect, but in the sense of saying, I'm going to love you through this change. I'm going to love you enough to actually face the pain and face the parts of me that are seeking out change. I think sometimes self-love is not necessarily a hard thing, but it's not always pretty. Sometimes it is difficult to love yourself, but those are the most important times that you should. Not because you should just love yourself and da-da-da, but it actually changes the way that you interact with the world. It's not like, your self-hate and self-love or just some choice you make that have no impact over your life. They have all the impact. That's literally your whole life in my perspective. If you recognize that you are the experience, and the life that you're waiting for is in a lot of ways you are the life you experience, then it's about catering that experience to actually have you within it, so you can actually be the subject to your experience rather than living in reference to everything else. And I think once you posit some type of self-love within yourself, then it stops being so much about other perspectives and about appreciating your own, appreciating how you look at the world, and not necessarily saying, oh, this is the right way, but saying, this is a way I'm looking at it. This is a way that I am. This is where I am. And I love myself for it. You can only live out you. You can only be you. So you have to learn to love that being, so you can actually appreciate the life that you've been given. And I know there are things in life that aren't necessarily beautiful all the time. And I know there are certain events that take us away from ourselves and convince us that our worth is less than it is. But that's all the more reason to have some type of foundation of self-love within yourself, within who you are. So you don't have to actually worry about constantly getting it from the external world, so you can actually give it to yourself. And I think that's the whole point of the idea of give yourself audience so you no longer need to perform. Give yourself self-love so you no longer need to act in ways that you think are befitting. Fulfill these certain conditions so you can love yourself and have other people love you. I think we have to, of course, be honest with ourselves in terms of our interaction with the world, in terms of our interaction with ourselves. But that doesn't mean that we have to be hard. That doesn't mean that we have to be negative to ourselves in order to try to get some positive results, because it doesn't work like that. Like every time I do something I consider a mistake, I try my very best to not think any negative thing or have a strong perpetuated negative feeling that carries on. I try to handle it in the moment and say, well, I appreciate myself for having a perspective that allows me to say, I don't want to do that anymore. Or this isn't beneficial. I'm going to try better to not do this, and genuinely give my effort to try. But I realize that the only opportunities we have to actually change those are when we're present, are overzealous, worrying and thought about it in a moment, like, oh, I can't do this, I shouldn't do that, I shouldn't have done this, da 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 da. It is important to a degree if it's super immoral. But with the stuff that I think we hark on ourselves about, I think it's important to give yourself an opportunity to be present so you can make the choice that aligns with what you actually wanted from that situation. And I think a lot of that starts with self-love. Because once you feel yourself with that, oh, I love myself, oh, I can do this, oh, I can, oh, I will, actual affirmation, genuinely fixing your thoughts and watching them not in a way of strict observance, but in a way of readiness. Whenever something negative pops into your mind, that's when you try to bring yourself to the present and recognize that it's just a thought. And you can posit as many thoughts as you want. You could think of a unicorn right now and it hits your head. So if you can think of that self-love and begin to feel it for yourself in terms of actually thinking of yourself as something you're being affectionate towards, something that you want to take care of, a friend, treating yourself like a friend, recognizing that you already are somebody. All of these, I feel like, are important things when it comes to how to love yourself. It's always about the feeling that you have for yourself. And I don't think that feeling needs to be vested in anything in the world. Like, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I don't necessarily know if it's a good or bad thing, but I don't hold my accolades that close to my self-love. I love that, I appreciate that I got this. I appreciate that I achieved this. But my self-love is entirely different. I love myself for who I am. And I love what I do through myself. If I achieve that certain something, it's not like, oh, I have to love that achievement or love myself because of that achievement. But simply love myself, period. If that achievement is a reason to love myself, then it's just like another reminder. Oh, I love myself. Look what I was able to do. But even if I don't achieve anything, even if that never happens, I recognize that a lot of our value is vested in our utility when it's really in our existence. The height of the stars never changes. You can think you're the greatest in the world and you can have this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, we're just human. You're still a person. You're still this. You're still that. So there's no point in constantly referencing yourself to your possessions to the extent of not loving yourself or constantly referencing yourself to other people. I know sometimes it is difficult, but I think it's important to at least let yourself know that your love for yourself is not dependent on other people's love for you. And it's not dependent on any other external thing. It's all has to do with what's inside of you. It all has to do with how you view yourself and how you feel about yourself. And I think sometimes like people are like, oh, I just don't feel that way about myself. And I think that's where affirmations truly come in. Looking at your mirror and saying, I love you. Doing the thing that you actually want to do, the things that make you feel like yourself. And while you're doing them, being present enough to acknowledge you're doing it for yourself and appreciate yourself for it. Thank you for letting me do this. I'm grateful that I'm able to do this. I'm grateful that I can do this in my life. Practicing gratitude on a regular basis is also a form of self-love, I feel, because it's allowing you to look at the world as something that's benefiting you rather than something that's taking away all your benefits. I think we get into the habit of harking on the world so much so without recognizing we're a part of the world. If you constantly say this world is so negative and you live in it, what do you think you're going to turn out like in a real way? And I know it is sometimes negative around the world, but I think we shouldn't punish ourselves for the negativity that's out. And we also shouldn't punish ourselves to the extent of not keeping our eyes open enough to see the good. I think we owe it to ourselves to embrace every good opportunity, everything that we are grateful for in this life. I think we owe it to ourselves to truly be present enough to choose positivity and choose the love for ourselves. Otherwise, we're just going in circles, I feel like. We have to let our guards down with ourselves. I think a lot of us don't want to even be vulnerable to who we are, like accept certain negative implications of our thoughts, accept what they mean for us, accept that parts of ourselves are seeking out change and they might have to. You can't leave anything behind if you don't move forward. And you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. I think a lot of self-love is learning to look at yourself fully and still saying, I love you, period. There are so many parts of me that I still want to change. I think that there's still a lot more work that can be done. But that doesn't mean I reference myself to work that has yet to happen. The only point you live in reference to is the present moment. So you have to bear down where you are and learn to love yourself where you are, because that's the only place you truly find yourself. That's the only place you truly are. If you only love your accolades and what you've achieved in your past and this is that and the other, you lose a lot of the plot, I feel like. Because then you're constantly waiting on some sort of external thing to rekindle that love you have for yourself. And when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh, I fell off. Ooh, da, da, da. You got to love yourself where you are. And it can't be dependent on your actions, I feel. It has to be dependent on just your perspective of yourself and your ability to curate your life, you, in attune to yourself. Sort of committing to yourself and truly aligning yourself to what you want. You know, recognizing that if you want something, a self-loving person, a self-loving action would be to implant thoughts in your head like, oh, I can do this. I know I can. I'm capable. I'm deserving. I'm this. I'm that. Because you're actually always listening to yourself. And I think we hark on ourselves negatively all the time without recognizing it, and it imprints on our subconscious. And we sort of get addicted to these feelings and addicted to sort of the struggle when you don't have to struggle in a real way. I think through a lot of self-love and believing in yourself and all of these things stemming from self-love, we actually open the door. We actually apply a little pressure to the door that seemed closed, because it's not about the door anymore. It's just about seeing what's on the other side in a way. It's about giving yourself an opportunity to experience life. And I think that's what self-love is sort of for. Allowing yourself to sort of be one with the world you inhabit rather than being a part of the world you inhabit. It's about embracing your wholeness in a way, in a sense of appreciating yourself so fully you can actually appreciate the flaws in others sometimes. Of course, not necessarily overt flaws or immoral things, but you learn to have a subtle appreciation for life because you can look at things in a way that actually gives life back to you. All in all, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Yeah, thank you so much if you made it this far. If you didn't, thank you anyway. I appreciate you guys, and I really do hope you're taking care of yourself. You know, keeping your mind on an upward tilt, walking up the upward slope, doing whatever you need to do to make yourself, not to make yourself, but to allow yourself to be. So yeah, and